Hi everybody, welcome back to this video series. In this video, we are going to cover the third part, which is on the implementation of Flower FL on the Nectar Cloud using Python files. In this video, we need to create virtual machines. Specifically, we are going to create 4 virtual machines, 1 for the server and 3 for the clients. After creating these virtual machines, we are going to log in into these VMs and going to copy the relevant or the required files from our local machine to the VMs. These files are the Python files, PyProject TOML files, and readme.md files that we have seen in the previous 2 videos. After that, we are going to install the required libraries / packages, that will be used to run those Python files. And after installing these different packages, we are going to run the Python files from these respective VMs, and hopefully those VMs can communicate with each other to exchange those different model parameters. The first step is to create the VMs on the Nectar Cloud, and for that we have very nice documentation available at the AusCAT webpage, which mentioned the in detail step to set up the virtual machine on the Nectar Cloud. Also, at the official webpage of Nectar, they have ton of different tutorials which not only cover the creation of these virtual machines, but cover a range of different topics for the Nectar Cloud, which are quite useful. So let's try to create a virtual machine on the Nectar. And for that, I'm going to log in into the Nectar dashboard using my institute or organization credentials. I belong to UNSW. It has picked up from that. So this is the dashboard for the Nectar, and currently I am in this project of ACD and AusCAT sim. You probably have a different project at your dashboard. Select the relevant project type from this drop down menu, and after that we need to create the instance or a virtual machine. And for that we have this menu on the left hand side, which has these tabs of home, project, identity, application, and allocations. In the project tab, we have this option of compute and then instances. And from that, we are going to create a new instance, aka a virtual machine. So on the very top, we have this option of launch instance. By clicking that, it should launch a new instance. Of course, we need to specify a few options for that VM. What kind of operating system, what we want, how many resources we want in that VM, what kind of networking and things like that. We need to specify those options while creating those instances. As you can see, I have already created these 4 virtual machines with their respective names, 1 for the server and 3 for the clients. But for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to create 1 more virtual machine here. So for that, let's click on this launch instance. So on the left hand side, these are the different options that we need to fill in. Some of them are mandatory and some of are optional. So let's begin with the name, and let's say the name is test VM, and let's say the description is VM for the simulations purposes. Press next. Then we need to specify the image, the base operating system, and for that we are going to choose the Ubuntu image with this version of 20.04. Press this up arrow, it should be selected, then press next. We need to specify what kind and how many resources we want. We are going to select this M3.small version. It has 4 GB of RAM and 30 GB of root disk, which should be enough for our purposes. So select that. Yep. Press next. And networks, keep it as it is. For the security group, we need the SSH so that we can log into that, and also we need to make sure that these virtual machines can communicate with each other. Means that we should have the ingress and egress communication happening on these virtual machines. So for that, I'm going to select this FL group that I have created earlier. Press next, and then it's asking for the key pair. Now I need to provide a public key which will be used to create this VM, and then when I try to log in into this VM, I need to provide the private version of that key. So we are going to use public key cryptography, which uses two different kind of keys. One is used for the encryption and other for the decryption. If you encrypt your data with one key, that encrypted data can only be decrypted using the other key, and vice versa. It's opposite to what we have in the symmetric cryptography, in which a same kind of key is used for both encryption and decryption. So while creating this virtual machine, we need to provide the public key version of the key, and we need to save the private key for later when we need to log in into that VM. So let's create a pair of key first, and then we need to import the public version of key here. So import key pair. Before that, let's try to create a pair of key, and for that we can use SSH keygen, and here is asking for the directory where we want to save this. Let's give it as the desktop, and let's say this is my test key. So this will be the name of the key. I guess I have a folder of key, and then I can give my test key. We are not going to give any passphrase, the same passphrase. Okay. Yep. Okay, so if I go to the desktop and see that, so yeah, I have this key, my test key, which is the private version, and this my test key.pub, which is the public version of the key. And we need to provide this public version of the key to the Nectar while creating that virtual machine. So first of all, we need to specify the name of this key pair. Let's call it as test key, and the key type should be SSH, and for that we are going to load the public version of that key. Import key pair, and that's pretty much it. Press next, keep these things as they are, and that should launch a new instance, a new virtual machine. It will take a couple of minutes to launch this virtual machine, schedule it and assign an IP address to this virtual machine as well. So once the virtual machine is created, we need to log into this virtual machine using its IP address and by specifying the private key that we have just created in the previous step. And once we are logging into that virtual machine, we are going to copy the specific files that we need to run our example for the flower simulation. So to log into this VM, what we need to do, we need to use this SSH command, then this tag of -i, which is for the identity file, means that we need to specify the private key here. So we are already in the key folder. Yep, we are already in the key folder. We just need to specify the name of the private key, which is my underscore test key, and then we need to specify the image name, which is Ubuntu in this case, and at the rate of the IP address of this specific virtual machine, which is still scheduling. Once it's done, we should have an IP address or maybe a couple of IP addresses depending upon which server has been used to create this specific virtual machine. Okay, so we have these two IP addresses, one with the data and one without the data. So we are going to use the IP address without the data. This one is used to transfer some data or some other purposes. We are not going to use that IP address to log in into this virtual machine. So this one, which is 203.101.224.225.154, is the one that we are going to use for the login purposes. So just press paste, and it's still running. I think if I run this, the connection is refused because it's still not there. Okay, let's try this once more. Still not there. Still not there. Yeah, everything looks fine. Still not there. Identity, my test key, Ubuntu 203.101.225.154. Let's give it one more try. Yep. And we want to continue. Yes. And yep, we have logged in into this virtual machine. You can see the name of the virtual machine, which is test -VM, that we have specified while creating this virtual machine. So once we have logged in into this virtual machine, we are going to copy the relevant files from the host directory, from the host machine to this VM. And specifically at the desktop, I have this folder of server in which I have these three files, one for the server Python, one for the PyProject.toml, and one for the readme.md. So we are going to copy these three files from the host machine to the virtual machine. We can copy these files one by one, or we can copy this whole folder of server into the virtual machine. Before that, let's have a look at the directory, the folder sequence. So right now we are in this directory of home/Ubuntu, and in this folder we have nothing at the moment. So what we are going to do, we are going to copy the whole server folder from the host machine within this directory of /Ubuntu. For that, I'm going to log out of this virtual machine, and to copy the files, we are going to use this command of scp. Again, the identity tag to specify the name of the private key, which is my test key, and then I need to specify the folder name that we want to copy from the host machine to the virtual machine. And because we want to copy the whole contents of that folder, we need to specify the tag or the flag -r, which is for the recursive. And then specifying the directory for the server. Right now we are in the key, so we need to go back one directory and then this server. We need to copy this whole thing, the server folder, into our virtual machine. So Ubuntu at the rate of this IP address, and then within this virtual machine we are going to copy within this folder. Press enter and hopefully it will work. Yep. So we can see that these three files within that server folder, including that folder, has been copied into that virtual machine. So let's log in into this virtual machine once more. Okay, so we have this server folder inside that Ubuntu directory. So if you go to that server folder, and we can see that these three files are there. Now, once we have copied the relevant files for the server, by the way, we have to do the same for each of the client VM as well. For the client, not only we need to copy these relevant files of the client Python, PyProject, README, but we also need to copy the data files as well. For the client one, we should have the data underscore one.csv and so on and so forth. So we need to do this for the other three virtual machines as well. So once the file has been copied, the next step is to install the relevant packages which list in this pyproject.toml. And for that, we are going to use this pip package, pip install dot, and it say that the pip is not installed in this virtual machine. So for that, we are going to install this pip first. So sudo apt install pip, and it will take a couple of minutes, I believe, to install this pip. And once the pip package or pip thing has installed on this VM, then we can install those different libraries from that pyproject.toml file. Okay, so we have installed pip, and now we can use this pip install dot, and hopefully it will install all the required packages listed in that toml file. Yeah, it has started doing that, and it will take sometime maybe 6 or 8 minutes. We don't have to wait for that. We can assume that we have installed these packages for each on each of the virtual machine for the server and for 3 clients, and after that we just need to run those Python files. So I'm going to minimize this thing. And okay, so we have these 4 terminals opened, one for the server and 3 for the clients. So I have created those 4 virtual machines, and for those 4 virtual machines, I have the key pairs as well, which I have placed here. So this folder keys has these 4 pairs of keys, 1 for the server and 3 for the client. So we are going to use these keys to log in into those 4 VMs. So let's start with the server. So I'm already in this Nectar simulations folder, in which I have a folder for keys. So let's log in into that server machine first. For that, ssh/i, then the key for the server, which has the name of IDS_RSA_server, and then the name of the image, Ubuntu, and the IP address of this server machine, which is this in this case, 115.146.84.72. So using that VM, I'm going to log in into this one. Yep, you can see that we have the name of this VM, which is FL-Flower server. And the same thing, I'm going to do the same thing for these 3 clients as well. So very quickly, SSHI for the client 1, 2. Okay. There is a space here. Wonderful. And I'm going to do the same for the second and third. Client. So let's use the key for the second client and the IP address for the second client. Yep. And for the third client, let's copy this. Yes, so we have login into these virtual machines, and first let's have a look at the files that these virtual machines have. So in the server, if I see, we have these two folders, one for the flower simulation and one for the Docker. We are going to use this Docker version in the next video, but for this one we are going to stick with the first folder, which is flower_simulation. So let's go into this folder and see that we have these three files of PyProject, README, and server. And for the clients, again, we have these two folders. We are going to get into this flower simulation, and within this one we have these three files of client1 Python, PyProject, README, and beside that we have this one folder of data which should hold the local data set for the first client. So if we go into that folder and see that we have this data_1.csv file. Same goes for the second and third client as well. One other thing that we have modified in terms of the Python file, we have modified the IP address of the server being used. Because we are running these simulations on the Nectar cloud and not on the local machine. So instead of specifying that 127.0.0.1, we need to specify the actual IP of the server, and that IP address is this, in this case 115.146.84.72. So we need, or we have already modified the IP address. So let's have a look at the server Python file first. So for that, vim server.py, and you can see here the server address has been changed to this 115.146.84.72 and the port number. So we have modified the IP address, and same goes for each of the client as well. So if I have a look at the client Python file, you can see that the server address excuse me, we have modified the server address as well, the actual IP address of the server. Excuse me. Okay, so let's go back, and the final thing is we just need to run these respective Python files from these respective VMs, and hopefully these Python files will be able to communicate or the VMs will be able to communicate with each other. Okay, let's run the server file first from the server machine, and once it's up and running, we can run the client files from these three client VMs. Okay, so we can see that it has started and it's requesting the initial parameters from one of the random client. So let's run the client Python file from this virtual machine. Client 1, press enter, and let's run the other two files as well. Yep. Okay, let's go to the flower. Client 2, and similarly for the third one as well. Okay, so we can see that these files have been run. They are able to communicate with each other. So the server and the clients have been able to exchange those different module parameters with each other. So in this tutorial, what we have done, we have gone through these different contents. We have created virtual machines. We have created one virtual machine for the sake of demonstration, but we need to create those 4 virtual machines, 1 for the server and 3 for the clients. We have logged into these virtual machines using the private key that we have generated using SSH keygen command, and then we have copied the files from the local machine to these VMs, installed the required libraries / packages, and finally we have run the Python files for the federated learning process. So that's pretty much it for this video. In the next part, we are going to see the implementation on the same Nectar cloud, but using Docker files. Thank you.